I've spent my life watching people chase money. I've watched brilliant people earn impressive salaries, collect degrees from prestigious universities, and build careers that looked successful from the outside. Yet many of those same people reached retirement with surprisingly little wealth to show for decades of hard work. That's always fascinated me. How can someone be intelligent, disciplined, and hardworking, yet still struggle financially? The answer is uncomfortable because it challenges what most people believe. Education and wealth are not the same thing. In fact, some of the smartest people I know have made terrible financial decisions. Somewhere along the way, they assumed that earning more money automatically meant becoming wealthier. It doesn't. A high income can make life more comfortable, but comfort and wealth are very different things. Wealth is what you own. Wealth is what remains after the spending stops. Wealth is the collection of assets quietly working for you while you sleep. Most people never learn that distinction. They spend years improving their earning power while neglecting their wealth-building power. The result is predictable. They become highly paid employees instead of financially independent owners. Today, I want to share 10 difficult truths that separate those two paths. These aren't theories. They're observations I've made over decades of studying businesses, investing capital, and watching how money behaves. And the first truth is where almost everyone gets confused. The first mistake educated people make is confusing a paycheck with wealth. This sounds simple, but it quietly destroys financial futures every single day. Someone earns a six-figure salary and immediately feels successful. Friends congratulate them, family admires them, their lifestyle improves, everything appears to be moving in the right direction. But income alone doesn't create wealth. Income is simply a tool. What matters is what happens after the money arrives. Most people spend nearly everything they earn. As income rises, spending rises right alongside it. A larger house, a nicer car, more expensive vacations, better restaurants, more subscriptions, more obligations. The paycheck grows, but wealth never appears. I've met doctors earning enormous salaries with less net worth than school teachers who consistently invested for decades. Why? Because one focused on earning while the other focused on ownership. Wealth is built by acquiring assets, not by displaying income. The person earning $80,000 who saves aggressively often ends up wealthier than the person earning $250,000 who spends recklessly. That's difficult for many people to accept because society celebrates income far more than net worth. But the numbers don't care about appearances. The numbers only care about ownership. Every dollar spent today is a dollar that cannot compound tomorrow, and compounding is where financial freedom begins. The second truth involves debt, particularly the kind people willingly accept in pursuit of education. Debt can be useful when it purchases productive assets, but debt can also become a financial anchor that follows people for decades. I've seen countless intelligent young adults begin their financial lives carrying obligations so large that building wealth becomes nearly impossible. The problem isn't education itself. Education can be valuable. The problem is failing to evaluate education like an investment. Every investment should produce a return. Every dollar spent should be measured against the value it creates. Yet many people borrow enormous sums without ever calculating whether the financial return justifies the cost. They assume the degree automatically guarantees prosperity. Sometimes it does, often it doesn't. Meanwhile, those loan payments continue month after month, year after year, quietly stealing money that could have been invested. Most people underestimate the opportunity cost. They focus on the debt balance and ignore what those same dollars could have become if invested over several decades. Time is incredibly powerful when combined with compounding. Unfortunately, debt compounds too. The difference is that one works for you while the other works against you. Financially successful people understand this early. They treat debt carefully because they understand every obligation reduces future flexibility, and flexibility is one of the most valuable assets anyone can possess. Another reason educated people struggle financially is something few discuss openly: taxes. Most individuals spend years learning how to earn money but almost no time learning how to keep it. That's a costly mistake. The tax system rewards certain behaviors and penalizes others, yet most people never take the time to understand those incentives. They earn income, pay taxes, and move on without asking whether a more efficient approach exists. Wealthy people think differently. They spend time studying tax efficiency because they understand that reducing unnecessary tax burdens creates additional capital available for investment. Over decades, that difference becomes enormous. Imagine two people earning identical incomes. One invests through tax-advantaged accounts, plans strategically, and understands the rules. The other ignores tax planning completely. 20 years later, the gap between them can be extraordinary, not because one worked harder, but because one understood how money flows through the system. Financial intelligence isn't just about earning, it's about preserving. It's about understanding how taxes, inflation, and expenses quietly erode wealth if left unmanaged. Most educated professionals become experts in their careers but remain beginners when it comes to personal finance, and that knowledge gap often costs them more money than any market downturn ever could. The fourth truth is perhaps the most visible. People buy lifestyles instead of assets. The moment income increases, spending increases, success becomes something to display rather than something to build. Society encourages this constantly. Every advertisement, every social media post, every status symbol sends the same message: spend more, upgrade, impress people, look successful. Unfortunately, appearance and wealth are often opposites. Many people who look wealthy are simply carrying larger obligations. Bigger houses require bigger mortgages. Luxury cars require larger payments. Expensive lifestyles require constant income. That isn't freedom. It's dependency disguised as success. Truly wealthy individuals often look surprisingly ordinary. They focus on acquiring assets because assets generate future income. Liabilities consume it. That's the difference. Every financial decision either moves you closer to ownership or further away from it. The challenge is that assets usually require patience while lifestyle purchases provide immediate gratification. Human beings naturally prefer immediate rewards. That's why financial discipline is so rare. But discipline creates options, and options create freedom. Every dollar invested today becomes a small employee working on your behalf. Every unnecessary expense becomes an employee you never hired. Over time, those choices determine whether you become financially independent or financially dependent. The decision appears small in the moment. The long-term consequences are enormous. The fifth truth is something most people don't think about until it's too late. They have no emergency fund. That means every unexpected problem becomes a financial crisis. A car repair becomes debt. A medical bill becomes debt. A temporary job loss becomes panic. Most people assume their income will continue forever. Unfortunately, life doesn't work that way. Unexpected events happen to everyone. The difference is that financially prepared people experience inconvenience while financially unprepared people experience disaster. One of the most underrated financial assets in the world is cash. Not because cash earns extraordinary returns, but because cash provides flexibility. Cash buys time. Cash allows rational decisions during emotional situations. Without savings, people become desperate. And desperate financial decisions are usually terrible financial decisions. They borrow money at high interest rates. They liquidate investments at the worst possible moments. They sacrifice long-term goals to solve short-term problems. An emergency fund prevents all of that. Most people view cash reserves as unproductive. I view them as insurance. The purpose isn't maximizing returns. The purpose is protecting your future. Wealth is not simply about growth. It's also about survival. And people who survive difficult periods often emerge stronger because they avoided mistakes that permanently damage their finances. Stability may not feel exciting, but stability creates opportunity, and opportunity is where wealth grows. The sixth truth is one of the most expensive mistakes educated people make. They allow fear to keep them out of the market. They spend years studying, researching, and waiting for the perfect moment to invest. Meanwhile, inflation quietly erodes the purchasing power of their savings every single year. What they call caution is often fear disguised as intelligence. They convince themselves they're being responsible by keeping money on the sidelines. In reality, they're accepting a guaranteed loss in purchasing power while avoiding temporary market volatility. The stock market can be frightening in the short term. Prices move constantly. Headlines create panic. Predictions change every day. But long-term investing has never been about predicting next month. It's about participating in economic growth over decades. Most successful investors aren't fearless. They simply understand that temporary declines are part of the process. The greatest risk is often doing nothing. Every year spent waiting is a year lost forever. Time is the most valuable ingredient in investing because time allows compounding to work. The market rewards patience far more than timing. Yet many intelligent people spend their entire lives waiting for certainty. Unfortunately, certainty never arrives. And while they're waiting, opportunity quietly passes them by. The seventh truth may be the most powerful force in personal finance: compound interest. Most people understand the concept intellectually but fail to appreciate its practical impact. Compounding appears slow in the beginning. That's why so many people underestimate it. Early results seem small. Progress feels invisible. But compounding is deceptive because its greatest power arrives later. Imagine pushing a giant snowball down a hill. At first it barely grows. Then gradually it becomes larger. Eventually it becomes enormous. Wealth works the same way. Small amounts invested consistently over long periods can produce extraordinary results. The problem is that human beings naturally prefer immediate rewards. We struggle to sacrifice today for benefits decades in the future. That's why people delay investing. They assume they'll catch up later. But investing isn't simply about how much money you contribute. It's also about how long that money has to grow. The earlier you begin, the harder compounding works on your behalf. Financially successful people understand this. They start before they feel ready. They remain consistent even when progress seems slow. They trust the mathematics. Most people focus on maximizing income. Wealthy people focus on maximizing time. Because when it comes to compounding, time is often more valuable than money itself. The eighth truth involves retirement, and this is where many educated people discover reality far too late. They assume retirement will somehow take care of itself. They contribute occasionally to retirement accounts. They save when convenient. They postpone serious planning because retirement feels distant. Then one day it isn't distant anymore. Suddenly they're approaching retirement age and realizing the numbers don't work. The uncomfortable reality is that retirement is not an age. Retirement is a financial condition. You retire when your assets can support your lifestyle. Nothing else matters. Many people spend decades increasing their lifestyle without increasing their assets proportionally. As a result, retirement becomes financially impossible. They may have earned impressive incomes, but they failed to build sufficient ownership. Retirement planning is not about hoping, it's about mathematics. The earlier you begin, the easier the process becomes. The longer you delay, the more difficult it becomes. Every year matters. Every contribution matters. Every investment matters. Wealthy individuals understand this early and act accordingly. They don't assume future income will solve present problems. They solve those problems while they still have time, and time, once lost, cannot be recovered. The ninth and 10th truths ultimately lead to the same conclusion. Most people wait too long. They wait until they understand everything. They wait until conditions feel perfect. They wait until the economy improves. They wait until they earn more money. They wait until life becomes less busy. And while they're waiting, years disappear. Wealth is rarely built through perfect decisions. It's built through consistent decisions. Imperfect action almost always beats perfect inaction. Some of the most financially successful people I've met were not financial geniuses. They simply started early and stayed disciplined. They invested regularly. They controlled spending. They avoided unnecessary debt. They learned gradually and improved over time. Meanwhile, many highly educated people remained stuck because they were searching for certainty. But certainty doesn't exist. There will always be risks. There will always be unknowns. There will always be reasons to wait. The question is whether you allow those reasons to control your future. Wealth isn't created through one brilliant decision. It's created through thousands of small decisions repeated consistently over decades. The people who succeed financially are not necessarily smarter. They simply understand that action matters more than intention. Because in the end, financial freedom belongs to those who start before they feel ready and continue long after others have given up. The final truth begins with a question very few people ask themselves. What exactly are you building? Most educated professionals spend decades climbing ladders without ever stopping to ask where those ladders lead. Every year they work harder. Every year they become busier. Every year they earn a little more. Yet somehow the feeling of financial security never arrives. That's because income and wealth are not the same destination. Income is temporary. Wealth is permanent. Income requires your continued effort. Wealth continues working even when you stop. Many people spend 40 years maximizing income and almost no time maximizing ownership. Then retirement arrives and reality becomes impossible to ignore. The paycheck disappears. The lifestyle remains. Suddenly they discover that everything depended on their ability to keep working. That isn't financial freedom. That's financial dependency with a high salary attached to it. Wealthy people think differently. They ask a different question. Instead of asking how much they can earn this year, they ask what they can own for the next 30 years. That difference seems small, but it changes everything. Ownership compounds. Salaries do not. Assets grow. Paychecks disappear. Understanding that distinction early can completely alter the trajectory of your life. One lesson I've learned repeatedly is that financial success has very little to do with intelligence and almost everything to do with behavior. Most people already know what they should do. Save more, spend less, invest consistently, avoid unnecessary debt, build emergency reserves, plan for retirement. None of these ideas are secrets. The challenge isn't knowledge. The challenge is execution. Human beings are emotional creatures. We want immediate rewards. We want comfort today instead of security tomorrow. That's why so many smart people struggle financially. They understand the principles intellectually, but they fail to apply them consistently. Wealth isn't built through occasional brilliance. It's built through daily discipline. Small decisions repeated over decades become enormous outcomes. The decision to save instead of spend. The decision to invest instead of postpone. The decision to remain patient instead of emotional. These choices rarely feel significant in the moment, but compounded over a lifetime, they create extraordinary differences. Most financial success stories are surprisingly boring when viewed up close. They consist of ordinary decisions made consistently for extraordinarily long periods of time. Another mistake educated people make is assuming they can always catch up later. This belief is incredibly dangerous because time is the one asset nobody can replace. Money can be earned again, careers can be rebuilt, investments can recover, but lost time never returns. Every year delayed is a year permanently removed from the compounding process. That's why early action matters so much. Most people dramatically underestimate how powerful time can be when combined with disciplined investing. They focus entirely on contribution amounts while ignoring the mathematical miracle happening underneath. A dollar invested early often becomes worth more than several dollars invested later. Yet people continue postponing action because they believe future income will solve today's lack of discipline. Usually it doesn't. Higher income often creates higher spending rather than higher savings. That's why the habit matters more than the amount. People who learn financial discipline early gain an advantage that compounds throughout their entire lives. They understand that wealth isn't built in giant leaps. It's built through consistent progress, and consistent progress always beats occasional perfection. Perhaps the most important realization is that nobody is coming to rescue you financially. Not your employer, not the government, not the economy, not some miracle investment. Financial responsibility ultimately belongs to you. That may sound harsh, but it's actually empowering. Because once you accept responsibility, you gain control. Too many people spend their lives waiting for circumstances to improve. They blame markets, employers, politicians, inflation, or bad luck. Meanwhile, financially successful people focus on the variables they can control: their savings rate, their spending habits, their investment behavior, their knowledge, their discipline. These factors may not guarantee wealth, but they dramatically improve the odds. The future is uncertain for everyone. The difference is that prepared people face uncertainty with assets while unprepared people face uncertainty with excuses. Wealth is not about eliminating risk. It's about becoming strong enough to handle it. And strength comes from preparation, ownership, and long-term thinking. Every dollar saved increases resilience. Every investment increases opportunity. Every disciplined decision creates momentum. Over time, that momentum becomes difficult to stop. So let me leave you with one final thought. 40 years from now, time will have passed regardless of what you choose today. The future is coming whether you prepare for it or not. The question is, what version of yourself will arrive there? Will you arrive with assets, investments, and financial freedom? Or will you arrive carrying the same financial habits that kept you stuck for decades? Most people know the answer long before retirement arrives. They simply avoid confronting it. Wealth is not mysterious. It is not reserved for geniuses. It is not hidden behind secret formulas. It is the result of living below your means, investing consistently, understanding ownership, avoiding destructive debt, controlling emotions, and allowing time to do its work. That's it. The principles are simple. The execution is difficult, but difficult does not mean impossible. Every wealthy person started somewhere. Every portfolio began with a first contribution. Every fortune began with a decision. The decision to stop consuming everything earned and start building something that lasts in the end. Your income will not determine your financial future. Your habits will. Your degree will not determine your financial future. Your decisions will. And the best decision you can make today is the same decision wealthy people have made for generations. Start now. Stay disciplined. Let time work for you instead of against you. Because 40 years from now, you'll either be grateful you started today or wishing you had.